Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Life in Motion. I'm your host, Grace Becker. So, today I have another solo episode for everybody, and I'm really excited about what we have to talk about today. But first, I just want to check in, see how everybody's doing. How are you doing? Personally, I'm feeling a bit mixed. I am feeling a little frustrated right now because I just spent maybe over an hour trying to figure out this setup because I've been having some audio struggles with this and I don't know where it was coming from because it seemed like the first few episodes it was going smoothly. But that might be because I had the help of Jaden, my boyfriend. And from then on out, I was doing it pretty much on my own. But he came over. He's so sweet. He was on the phone trying to help me, and it still was not working. I was doing everything that we could think of. And he drove over here just to help me set it up and then to leave again. So shout out to Jaden. We appreciate you bringing us good audio quality to all the listeners. But I'm also feeling mixed because I am so ready for the cold to be done. And as I record this, the weather is currently 40 degrees and cloudy. And I am so excited. So I'm feeling excited because the weather is starting to change. Cannot wait for summer. I feel like summer, when spring comes and then summer comes, it just lifts my mood because the sun's out, so I'm getting that vitamin D. I'm also usually able to do more after work too, because by the time I get done with work at 5 o'clock, it's already dawn. It's already starting to get dark outside. And in the summertime, there's just so much more light. The light is extended past 5 p.m. So that's what I'm really excited for. What's everyone's favorite season? I know that I used to always think that fall was my favorite season, mostly because of Halloween. I love Halloween. That's probably my favorite holiday. But honestly, I think summer is my favorite. I just really love it. So yeah, everybody check in with themselves, see how you're doing. But for today's episode, I have kind of a sweet one. I am going to be talking about all sorts of life lessons that I have learned throughout my life. So take what works for you and leave the rest. If some of these you don't agree with, or if you are maybe just not ready to start working on that part, take what works for you, leave the rest. And before we get started, I would also just like to say that if you like what you hear today, please like it, leave a review, follow the podcast. I am not getting paid to do this. I invested my own money into this because I love to learn and I have loved to get to know other people's perspective, meet new people. And I feel like if I can help at least one person, then it's all worth it. So it would be nice to know who I'm helping and if you're liking it. So definitely like it, leave a review, and follow me. But I guess without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first life lesson that I've learned is, one, people really don't care. And I don't mean that people don't care about you. Of course, there are people in your life who care about you. But what I mean by people don't really care is that oftentimes people are so involved with themselves that they're not really paying attention to what other people are doing, what they look like, what they're wearing, all those types of things. It's different if you have a platform, right? If you are some sort of influencer, if you are, maybe a famous person, some sort of public leader, anything like that, and you're doing something, putting yourself out there, then people are paying attention to what you're doing, what you're saying. But in the general day-to-day sense of things, people really are so focused on themselves and what other people are thinking about them that they're not focusing on you. So that, when I learned that was really reassuring for me. That was something that I think I struggled with, and honestly, I'm still struggling with, for sure in high school and in college too. It wasn't until I think I started my master's program a few years ago that I started to think, you know what? I don't think people care as much as I think they do. I'm pretty sure that's all just in my head. And it really was just all in my head. And once I realized, people really don't care. It was freeing for me. So yeah, that's the first one. I'm thinking this will be a quicker episode. I have quite a few life lessons here, but if there's something that I bring up that you all are like, oh, I need more information on that, I need to know more about that one, I would be happy to do that. But the second life lesson that I've learned is that you can't make someone do something, just like how no one can make you do something. Think about it. Think about when you're wanting to clean, right? And maybe it was a parent, or maybe it was a partner, or maybe you were watching a video and someone else was cleaning and it felt like you were being told to do it. You didn't want to do it because you were being told to do something. But when you have the idea, when you feel like you're ready to do the cleaning, then it's more motivating and you're more likely to do it because you're the one who wants to do it. And kind of the same way, you also can't make other people do something. I hear a lot of the times, both in my personal life and my work life, I will hear people say things along the lines of, well, if they could only just do this, if my kids could just pick up their things, or if my friend would just text me back, or if like my spouse or my partner would just text me back, or if they would just do more, take more initiative, all these things, right? And the thing with that is that, one, you can express your thoughts, feelings, and your needs. However, you can't force another person to do something, to say something, or to think a certain way, right? They have full control over that. So what I've learned with this is that if there's something that I want from another person, I'm more likely to get it if I give something. So you have to give to get. Or if I'm trying to set a boundary, I have to make it to where I'm going to do something, not where I'm going to force another person to do something. Let me think of an example. So an example would be, say that my mother and I are fighting, right? And we're fighting because there's a family reunion coming up and she really wants me to go, but I really don't want to go. And she's like, Grace, you have to go. But she can't force me to do anything, right? I would set a boundary by saying something along the lines of, you know what, I would love to go. I would love to see everybody. And I also have this work obligation that I can't get out of. Therefore, I'm not going. I'm setting that boundary because that's something that I have control over, of me going or not going. It'd be different if I was saying to my mom, don't come because I don't want to see you, or don't come because it's going to be boring, right? Now, this is just a hypothetical situation. I love my mom and I would gladly go to a family reunion. But it's just to put in perspective for you that you can't force another person to do something, just like how no one can force you to do something. So yeah. Okay, the third one was get smart with finances. Oh my goodness, this is something I wish I learned so much earlier in life. It wasn't until I was in my bachelor's degree, towards the end of my bachelor's degree, that I feel I finally got smart with my finances. And what I mean by that is I was so anxious about money to the point that I refused to look at my bank account because I just didn't want to know how much I had, how much I didn't have, how much I was spending. It was pretty bad. And I just remember feeling such anxiety when I would be done grocery shopping and it would be $100-something, or I would go get something online and it would be $60 or $100. And I would be so nervous thinking, okay, can I afford this? Can I do this? But I'd be too anxious to look at my bank account. And it wasn't good. It really wasn't healthy. I was not keeping track of any of my subscriptions. I wasn't keeping track of how much I was spending on my bills. It was really, really bad. And to top it off, I had also just bought a new car that I took out a loan for, and I was going to be starting grad school soon, and I had to take out student loans for that. Looking back at it, I kind of regret the car choice, but it's too late now. I did that. And the student loans I had no choice in because I needed to pay for my college. But when I finally got smart with my money was when I was in my undergrad, and a big portion of it was support from Jaden. He is really smart with his finances, and I remember he was just talking to me one day about how he budgets his things out and, you know, his situation. And I just thought, wow, that would be so nice and so freeing if I could feel that way. And I also remember too, when I would go out with my friends, maybe we go out to a coffee shop or we would go shopping or doing something. If I saw something I liked, I pretty much almost always would put it in my cart, and usually I would buy it. For them, a lot of them would either not put it in their cart or they would put it in there and then get rid of it later. And I remember feeling this anxiety mixed with guilt and shame because I was thinking, wow, these people are my age and they're not buying this stuff even though they like it. So am I doing something wrong? So a lot of these things were eye-opening to me of I can't continue to live this way. And I finally decided to get smart with my finances. And I made a budget with my income and my expenses, you know, my non-negotiable expenses, such as my internet bill, my car insurance, my phone insurance, electricity, rent, those different types of things. And then you include the other things that you also need to live, such as groceries, gas, those types of things. And then I would include some of the fun items like restaurants and self-care items and all that fun jazz. And I would plan it out so that a portion of my income would go to my expenses, and then a portion of it would go to debt, and a portion of it would go to savings. And I just feel so much more confident in what I'm doing now. And now I'll hear or see other people who do kind of what I used to do. And I think of how I also used to be in that same position and how differently I feel about it now. So that is one of my biggest pieces of advice / life lesson I've learned is to get smart with your money. Okay, and then my fourth life lesson that I've learned is prepare if you can, but don't get hung up if something you couldn't have prepared for happens. I don't know if any of you have heard that saying, you can't be nervous if you're prepared. And I believe that that's partly true, because if you think about the times that maybe you had a presentation you had to give, or maybe you were going to an interview, or you were doing whatever, and you were feeling really nervous because maybe you didn't prepare for the interview. Maybe you didn't review your presentation, practice it enough, so you're feeling more nervous. However, if you were to have practiced the presentation a few times, if you were to have, had a mock interview before you go in, you would feel less nervous because you feel more prepared. You feel more confident in yourself and your ability to succeed, right? So I fully believe that prepare the best you can if you can. However, you can't always prepare for everything, right? Shit happens. Life happens. And sometimes things that you could not have known were to come and slap you in the face. And sometimes you just have to roll with it. It depends what it is that's coming at you. But if you prepare the best that you can, you're less likely to be nervous, and you're more likely to feel more confident in yourself and your ability, and maybe take more risks with yourself. So that was something that I'm still doing. This is kind of one of those, you have to do it, you have to practice it, you have to be consistent with it. So that's another one life lesson that I have learned. Okay, my fifth life lesson, I was listening, I forgot where I heard this. I don't know if it was a podcast or a TikTok video. I don't remember where it was, but this content creator said, love hard, trust hard. I've heard renditions of this before, and I took a part of that, right? Take what works for you, leave the rest. They said, love hard, trust hard. And when they were talking about it, their explanation for theirs made sense. However, I just took the love hard part. And I'll tell you why. So I took the love hard part because I fully agree that, you know what? Love people, love yourself as hard as you can, as best as you can. You're not always going to be perfect, and that's okay. And the reason that I would say love hard rather than, just like be standoffish is because you only get this one life. And I personally would much rather spend it loving the people around me and showing them and appreciating them how much I love and care for them. And if I don't love them, if I don't appreciate them, then that's a sign to me that they're not good for me and that they need to be out of my life. So that's why I say love hard. And if someone gives me a reason not to love them, then again, that's when I say, okay, you're done. Bye. So love hard. The reason I left out the trust hard is because depending on people's personal experience with trauma, with relationships, friendships, with whatever it is, with self-love too, even, is sometimes you don't always feel that you can trust yourself. My mind kind of went to people who struggle with addiction, right? If we're thinking for ourselves, you can trust yourself to the point of knowing, you know what? Like, I trust that I'm a good person. I trust that I'm going to do the best every day that I possibly can, right? But I also know people who are like, you know what? If I am around alcohol, I don't know if I can trust myself around it. Or if I'm around this certain person, I can't trust that I'm not going to want to go back to them, right? Or, you know what? I had this past relationship and they hurt me, and now I'm in this new one. I don't know if I can trust fully. So I don't always agree with the trust hard part, because sometimes it is good to set certain boundaries with yourself and with other people if that's what you need to be the best version of yourself. And it also kind of bleeds into some exposure too. So if it's, for example, trusting another person, maybe someone hurt you in the past and you're trying to trust this new person. Certainly, like, slowly expose yourself, right? You don't need to just give everything away, give the most vulnerable parts of yourself away. Slowly expose it, right? So you are trusting, but just don't trust so hard to the point where all of a sudden you regret it, if that makes sense. So that's what I took from that, is to love hard. Okay, the next one is to trust people when they show you who they are. And this one, it gets me every time because I feel like it's so deep. Have you ever heard the saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me? Is because the first time, if someone does something to hurt you, or if like someone does something ill towards you, it's shame on them because they're the ones who hurt you. You couldn't have prepared for that. You couldn't have known that was coming. But then if it happens again, it's shame on you because they already showed you the first time who they are. To me, depending what it is that you've done, I'm going to trust who you are, like who you showed me you are the first time. And I had to learn this pretty difficult in some pretty difficult times, is if you do something really outrageous that just hurts one of my morals, one of my values, hurts someone I care about, you're done. No, I'm not giving you a second chance. And I have an example for this one too. And it's about someone in my family. And I'm not going to give names, but there was this person in my family who I would see all the time growing up, pretty much every week, if not every other week or so, right? Growing up. But, as you get older, life changes, you're an adult, you have more responsibilities, and I couldn't see them as much. I maybe saw them a few times every other month, and then before you know it, it turned into only holidays that I would see them, or gatherings. And this was a family member, so I would also text them, call them whenever I could, and eventually got to the point where even those were getting scarce, where I wouldn't receive a text or call from them and they wouldn't receive one from me. And it was getting to be maybe a handful of times in a year. And I remember one day I posted something onto my Facebook page of like a life update, and I think it was when I got back from Ireland. I was like, I just got back from Ireland. Here's some pictures. I'm starting grad school. and this is just my life update for my family and my friends who I follow on there. And this family member commented on there saying, well, your dad would be really disappointed in you to know that you haven't called or texted me in months. Something along those lines. And I didn't see the message for like an hour. And all of a sudden I'm getting calls from my family and they're like, hey, are you okay? What's going on? And I didn't even know. So I went in to go my Facebook to see what it was. And sure enough, I saw the message. I deleted it off of my comments because I don't need that there. It's other people. It's not other people's business. It's my business and this person's business. And I sent them a direct message. And this was me one of the times I had to learn, you're showing me the type of person that you are. And I messaged this family member and I said, hey, I saw this message and I'm really disappointed in you because not only did you bring my dad into this when you really did not have to, but this is a two-way street. Like, I try my best to call and to text you and to see you when I can. And that's not just on me. You can also be texting me. You can also be calling me, right? Like, this is something that both of us could do better at. And if you're wanting to see me more, if you're wanting more time from me, I'm more than happy to try, right? To do that. I would appreciate it if when you want something from me, if you're missing me, that you message me directly, that you talk to me about it rather than making it public information, making us both a spectacle for people to gaw at and to, creep in at. It's not other people's business. And basically this family member shut me down saying like, oh, your dad would be so disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in you. And I said, if you don't apologize, then I'm basically going to cut you out of my life. And they did not apologize. They said that they didn't do anything wrong, which is me learning, okay, you know what? You've shown me multiple times now the type of person that you are. You're the type of person who can't take responsibility when they've hurt somebody. And you have no problem continuing to hurt me. So I'm going to take that information and I'm going to cut you out of my life. So I was trusting this person, this family member, when they showed me who they were. And it was really hard and it sucked. I hated having to do it. I wish I didn't have to. But I also know I don't deserve that. And I deserve people in my life who are going to treat me with respect. So that's a life lesson that I had to learn the hard way. Okay, the next one. Ask more questions. I am still trying to be better about this. I don't know if it's I wouldn't say ego thing, but it's just embarrassing, I think more so, if I feel like I don't know something. If I'm in a public setting with friends and they also need to be talking about something that I have no idea about, or if I'm with my colleagues and they're talking about this new therapy technique or this one modality or something or another, right? And if I don't know the answer, if I don't know what they're talking about, I almost feel guilty and shameful for not knowing. When I can't help that. I can't help the fact that I don't know it. I mean, I can help it, but I can't change the fact that I don't know the answer. I don't know what they're talking about, right? So I'm trying to be better at asking more questions because I could either remain ignorant or I could learn something and grow from that and then share that information with other people. So ask more questions. If you don't know someone's name, if you don't know what they do, but you think you should know, because I run into that too, especially at family gatherings, and everyone's coming up to me like, oh, I used to know you. I used to babysit you when you were a baby. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. I have no idea who you are. I'm trying to be better about asking, you know what? I'm really sorry. I don't remember you. Or can you remind me your name? Little things like that. So ask more questions, whether it's trying to get to know somebody, trying to educate yourself, or whatever it could be. Ask more questions, right? Okay. The next one is take care of yourself and listen to your body. I put these together because the first one, take care of yourself, it could be more than just what your body needs. It could be things that your mind needs or your emotions need. So journaling, basically acting into self-care. If you feel like you need to process something, journal it. Talk to a therapist, talk to a friend, talk to family, talk to somebody, process it. If your mind needs like a mental health day from work, take that PTO, use that PTO, take a break. But also I added in here, listen to your body. I added this one kind of its own little branch because this is something I specifically have always struggled with, and I think a lot of people do as well, and for different reasons. I've heard people struggle with listening to their bodies in the sense of, maybe they'll start the day off really strong. They're starting to eat really good, and maybe they got a workout in, right? But then all of a sudden they have a bag of chips. And then they have 2 bags of chips. And then maybe they have some cookies. And then they have a drink and all these other things. And then they get really hard on themselves. And they're like, oh my God, well, my day's gone to shit. Might as well just eat the whole cake. Or this is something I've also really struggled with. If I'm out to eat, I will be eating and I'll have eaten most of my food, but there'll still be some left. Maybe even enough for leftovers. But I'm like, no, it's here, it's in front of me. Let me just keep eating, even though I'm full. So I'm trying to stop. I'm trying to listen to my body, recognize, okay, you know what? I'm full. We're full, Grace. Let's just stop eating. Let's put the fork down, ask for a to-go box. It's totally okay to do that. I'm also trying to listen to my body when I need rest, because I also have struggled with this personally and know of other people who have. We get so hard on ourselves for when we want a rest day, especially when we're trying to improve our body health. So for example, for me, I am trying my best to work out at least 5 times out of the week and have some active rest days in there. But sometimes, whether I'm sick, whether I've just had a really shitty mental health day, whatever the reason is, if I need a rest day, I want to take it. I'm going to take it because my body needs the rest and I'll be better for tomorrow to start again new. So I'm trying my best to listen to my body, listen to what it needs, right? Sometimes I'm craving a fucking cookie, so I'm going to eat the cookie. And sometimes I'm craving fruit or I'm craving some carrots, whatever it is. I'm trying my best to listen to my body, be intentional with what I'm doing, with my body, my mind, and just to take care of myself. So that's a lesson that I've learned throughout my life so far and that I continue to try and practice. Okay. The next one. Do what makes you happy and say fuck you to the haters. I love this one, especially for people out here in the Midwest. I don't know if it's just a Midwest thing, whatever they say, like Midwest nice or whatever that phrase is. But I grew up always thinking I'm a people pleaser. That's who I am. That's what I do. And even if it makes me uncomfortable, even if it's something I don't want to do, I'm going to say yes to them. Or I'm going to do this because I want them to like me, right? I am over it. I'm done with that. No. If it doesn't fill me up, if it doesn't give me joy, whether it's doing something for another person because I care for them or doing something for myself, right? Like if that brings me happiness, I will do it. But sometimes I just don't want to. Or it's not something that makes me happy. Maybe it's something I really hate and don't want to do. I'm going to say no to that. And if you are judging me for setting that boundary, for saying no to something, then fuck you. And you can go do your own thing. I'm going to be over here minding my business. So that is a life lesson I have learned and I'm still doing. Do what makes you happy and say fuck you to the haters. And with that too, if you are doing something and it just seems really outrageous, right? I've heard this with a lot of content creators and influencers. When they start to do that, they'll have friends, family who will come to them saying like, oh, like, you really think you can do that? Do you really think you can make a living off of that? Or that seems really silly, doesn't it? Like, what are you going to do? Record yourself? You know what? If it makes you happy, then screw them. And show them. Show them. Whether you make money from doing what makes you happy or not, as long as it brings you joy, it brings you a sense of purpose, that's all that really matters, right? So yeah, that's that one. With that, kind of like a sub thing is, you all have probably heard this, haters gonna hate. But in reality, we all have someone who doesn't like us. And I was thinking about this, right? Because I think we all tend to assume that if there's another person that we like, we like them so much, oh, that friend of ours, everyone seems to want to be their friend, or, oh, they were homecoming queen, or they're the CEO of this company, or they're making this amount of money, or they're doing this. Oh, they must have so many people that like them. They must have no haters. Of course they do. Everybody does. You can't please everybody, just like how nobody can always please you. And that's okay. It really is. Because people sometimes even will find a reason not to like you, even if you've never done anything to hurt them. Sometimes people just don't like you for that reason alone. They just don't. And that's okay. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But you know what? Push that sucker down. Get some water. Whatever you gotta do. Swallow it. Okay, the next one. This one kind of reminds me of karma. And it's what goes around comes around. And I really am a firm believer in this idea. I don't necessarily mean like, oh, if you go give somebody $20, you're going to get $20 the next day. I more so believe that if you put yourself out there, if you are putting out kindness and positivity, you're going to get that back. If you're putting out hate and you're putting out, disappointment and all these other things and negativity, you're going to get that back. Because one, you are what you do. You are who you hang around with. All those types of things. And if you're putting out negativity, if you're putting out hate, I truly believe that that's what's going to come around for you more often than the positive. And so that's why I try my best to put out positivity. I try my best to put out, fulfillment and doing what makes you happy. And I believe that if I'm putting that out there, then that's what's also going to come back to me. So yeah, what goes around comes around. Okay, the next one. Do now what would make your future self happy. And honestly, all of these could be underneath the umbrella of this one point. Do now what will make your future self happy. Again, you can't prepare for everything, but set yourself up for the future, for your future self, right? Whether that means financially, like right now you're investing money into this stock or whatever so that you can grow your finances and have that for your future self. Whether it's something like that, or even if it's the night before you have to go to work, the night before you have to go to school, you make your lunch, you set out your clothes for the next day. Maybe you make sure to go to sleep early that night so that you can go to the gym in the morning because you know that's what's going to make you happy. That is what's going to set yourself up for success. So you can view it in a lot of different ways, but essentially what it comes down to is do what you can that you have control over. That's a big piece of it too, because we don't have control over everything. Humans love to believe we do, but we really do not. So take control of what you have the ability to and do what's going to make your future self happy, successful, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that was the next point. Okay, my next one is make the time. Make time for people, for the things that you want to do, and make time for yourself. I have another point right underneath it, and I think they go together. And it's that time is the one thing that we cannot get back, so make the most of it. Would you rather spend your time feeling miserable and down on yourself, or would you rather like to spend that time maybe lifting yourself up, lifting other people up? Of course, make space for all of your feelings and eventually remind yourself, you know what? There's more to life than my current feeling. So what can I do now for myself, for another person, whatever it may be, that is going to help me to be that future happy self? Make time for the people around you. If you have friends, family that you care about, call them, reach out to them. Connect with them, check in, see how they're doing. Check in with yourself, see how you're doing, right? Because you, at the end of the day, you always come home to yourself. So do check in with yourself throughout the day. Make sure you're doing what you need. If what you need is to go home, put on sweatpants, take your bra off, and just veg out on some pizza, and watch your favorite reality TV show, I love that for you. Do that, because that's what you got to make time for that day. But if what you need is you need to go get a late night workout in and maybe chat with some friends afterwards, maybe go get some cocktails after work, whatever you gotta do, I love that for you too. Do that. Make time for the people in your life that are important to you and who also make time for you, right? What goes around comes around. I love how all of these are just somewhat interconnected. Okay, so this is actually one of my last life lessons I've learned and that I'm still practicing today. And it's arguably one of the most important life lessons I've ever learned. And it is simply consistency. Consistency is key. I don't think I can sing it because I don't want to get copyrighted, but do you all know that Megan Thee Stallion song where she sings about consistency and how it's the key? She was really onto something there, because none of these things matter if you're not consistent. If you don't continuously show up for yourself, show up for the things that are important to you, then it really doesn't matter. Because think about it, right? So take me and this podcast, for example. I have the goal that I would really love it if this podcast could reach many people. I would love it if this podcast could reach hundreds of people, maybe even thousands someday. That would be a dream for me. However, I am not going to get to that goal if I am not consistent with uploading my episodes, if I am not consistent with making social media content, if I am not consistent with reaching out to people to be guests on the podcast, and all these other little things that are at play, right? If I just upload when I feel like it, or if I kind of half-ass this one piece of the content and then put in my full OC into these other parts, I am not going to get to my goal. Consistency is the biggest piece of all of this, right? Whether it's showing up for yourself, showing up for another person, whatever it is, consistency is what is going to get you there. More than motivation or more than anything. Because motivation is, oh, all these certain things have to fall into place in order for me to do this thing. Consistency, dedication, discipline, whatever you want to say, all of those things mean, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to show up because I have a goal here. And I have to do what I have to do to get what I want. It's very rare that you just make a wish and it happens for you. Very few people are that lucky. Most people have to work really, really hard to get what they want. So if it matters to you, act like it matters. Be consistent. And I hope I don't sound really mean because I also do struggle with this sometimes, right? Like working out, eating right. I like to think I'm really good about being balanced and fueling my body with the things I need and being consistent with working out. But sometimes you have those days or those weeks or those months even where, you know what, you just can't, life circumstances get in the way. So I've definitely been there. And I also know how difficult it is being in that position. You have to pick your difficult. Do you want the difficultness of staying where you are? Or do you want the difficult aspect of working really hard to get what you want and having that sweet reward in the end? Think about it. And actually, I just thought of one last life lesson that I want to share. And it's that you need to celebrate your wins and your victories and your successes. It may seem like most people in this world have a huge ego and love to talk about themselves, which, I mean, maybe some people do. But honestly, there are a lot of people that I've encountered in my professional and my personal life who downplay their successes and their wins and their victories. You need to own that shit. If you meet a work goal, if you meet a performance goal, if you meet a personal goal, whatever it is, celebrate that. Take the time to acknowledge that and to give it the recognition that it deserves because you're a badass and you are doing what you need to do. You're being consistent and that deserves some recognition. So I think I'm going to end there today. I really hope that you liked this. Again, If you liked what you heard today, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a like, if you would leave some stars, leave 5 stars, please. If you would follow it. Otherwise, you can reach me at my email at life.motion24@gmail.com. My Instagram is life.in.motion24. I release a podcast episode every week, so tune in next week to hear all about Life in Motion. I really hope you liked this episode today. If you want to know more information about any one of these points that I brought up, leave me a comment, send me an email, DM me on my Instagram. I would love to get into some of these. But until next week, embrace the chaos and find the beauty. Bye.